Hi Richa, why don't we begin and you tell us a little bit about what is blindness?
So yes, very interesting. I think plant blindness is a very common phenomena these days, wherein people don't notice the trees around us, or even if they notice, they don't know the names of the trees. I mean, I can probably say that even I suffered from it somewhat, but I did know at least the basic trees. Like I would know a banyan, I would know a neem, a mango, probably people. So these are the basic trees which are, I think, very quintessentially a part of the Indian landscape, and these were taught to us in school. There were these trees all around us. I remember as a kid also used to go, love playing under a banyan tree, hang
Yes.
from its branches.
Yes.
That's so much fun. Neem, mango, of course, that you collect the fruits and eat them. The flowers of neem smell so nice.
Yes.
But these days I've noticed, like I was actually taking a workshop for kids, art workshops, and I love taking outdoor workshops. And then I would make kids paint a tree, and a tree like a banyan. I thought that no one can not recognize a banyan, but I was surprised that they were not, I think practically anybody who could recognize a banyan tree. And I was like, okay, this is like really serious. And this is the age of information, because your information is all over your mobile phones. There's so many guides available now. We didn't have all that. Our information was passed on by our parents, right?
True.
Like there were hardly any guides available. There were hardly any information available. But at least this basic was known to everyone. I don't know why we are losing it. Like we just completely ignoring the trees. Increasingly, hence, I think I've been focusing more on the trees, trying to spread knowledge about them, because there's another phenomena now. I think when we are planting trees, we just plant the exotics because the Indian trees are difficult to manage. So British had this thing, they
Yes,
brought in
yes.
trees from their landscape, which are pine and eucalyptus, but they are of no use to the Indian landscape because they're not supporting any wildlife, they're not supporting any fruits, they're spoiling the soil of this area. So the natives are very important, and here also now also the societies which are planting trees, they plant trees like champa, ashoka, false ashoka, sorry, palms, which are again of no purpose whatsoever. So yes, as in hence plant blindness I think is an epidemic probably now, or maybe
That's
a
true.
pandemic. And I think increasingly as we're cutting down trees and the pollution levels are increasing, we need to focus on them increasingly so in the age today.
Yes, absolutely. So I have a similar interesting experience. I've always loved greens and liked nature and being part of it. But my,
So you grew up in Delhi only, or you grew
around cities, yeah, I'm very urban girl,
Yeah.
and with a hectic corporate life always. So whatever you can notice the little bit on your holidays and vacations and morning walks, I was that kind of a person. So suffering totally from plant blindness, like not getting into the details at all.
Yeah.
But for me, the transformation happened during COVID.
Okay.
It was a lockdown, everything came to a standstill, complete silence, and that's when I started coming out, I started noticing a little more than the obvious.
Okay.
And my interest started picking up from what's moving in the trees. Okay, or the calls I would hear, and that's when I started getting interested in birds. So I'm a bird photographer, and that's the hobby which I picked up during the COVID lockdown. I wanted to get out, so I started going into these small green belts very close to Gurgaon, right in Gurgaon, where I could roam around without a mask, because our societies had made mask compulsory. So I would run away to these places, and it was so quiet, and you would just see the greenery all around, and you would hear the bird calls. And then I started noticing these beautiful colorful creatures who are moving within these greens, and that's when I discovered this world of birding, bird watching, bird photography.
And it's fascinating, no? It keeps
It's
drawing you in.
so fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, and after that it hasn't stopped. And then within my, the condo which I live is a very busy condo in Gurgaon, in the heart of the city. And within that we found like-minded people. We have
Nice.
made like a birding club, and then we would come out for walks together within the condo. We take kids for the walks, and you would be surprised, we have documented over 50 species
Great.
within the condo. Okay, and I mean, of course, then people got interested, and they encouraged me that why don't you share it with other people around. I started sharing it more on like our society WhatsApp groups and other groups, and people would be so surprised that where have you seen this green pigeon? It must be somewhere shot somewhere in a forest. and I would be saying that it's right under your nose, like it's literally in our backyard.
Yeah, it's crazy that even after being such populated city, Delhi has so many birds.
Exactly.
It's insane.
Yes. So Delhi and around NCR is one of the most populated, has the maximum number of species amongst the urban areas of bird population.
I think it's one of the most biodiverse capitals of the world, probably.
Yes. And we in Gurgaon are fortunate to have this Aravali belt around us, although we are rapidly losing it and there are so many threats to it. But this is giving us those small green belts around the Aravalis, which are probably from where we are sitting, it's like 8 to 10 kilometers of radius.
Right.
And you would find exotic birds. I mean, which people think are really exotic birds, amazing species of owls, and the birds who migrate in to nest here, and then there is a whole winter migration of waders.
Right.
It's so amazing that I think people really need to be able to see them. So only when you have a mind that you want to see them is when you would be able to see them.
Yeah, and when you start noticing, then you start noticing so many things, right? And then you realize how blind you've been.
Exactly.
So it's like another world altogether, and the way you see the world changes.
Exactly. And this, so not just birding, then you would just want to go ahead one step, and I would, of course, I was interested in birds' behavior, their habitats. So then I started noticing plants and trees and flowers a little more. Trying to understand, okay, which kind of shrubs or trees do this particular bird nest on, what do they eat, which kind of flowers the nectar sunbird is taking, or why is this like Mena sitting on a simul flower. Then you would realize, oh, they are looking for insects there. So, there are about 5 or 6 red flowers which grow around Gurgaon. And till 2 years back, I didn't know their names. But now I do.
Great.
So yeah, it's been such an amazing discovery, and it's so therapeutic. It's, it's such a stress buster, especially during COVID time when I just needed an outlet. But even after that, I no longer need, headphones when I'm walking, because I have nature with me.
I think you're never bored, right? When you were into nature, because now I don't listen to music because I need to notice the nature sounds. Normally, I paint at night in my room, then I would have music on. But I think one day I was just painting and it was like 1 a.m. or something, and I heard a droplet of water falling.
Exactly.
And I was like, okay, which sound is that? And so I had to turn the music off. I went outside, I recorded the sound, and then I shared it with a friend. They're like, okay, this is Scopes owl. And I did not know Scopes owl was in my house.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And uske baad, so now I don't play music at night also because I want to hear the Scopes owl again. I've not heard it, but then I think I will.
But barn owls are around.
Barn owls are not around my house. Spotted owlet is definitely. Spotted owlets I keep seeing. So those guys I'm aware. So I see every day, I hear them every day. Scopes owl, I was not aware that they are around my house.
So very interesting, same experience I have had so many times when I go to these greens, especially the Mangar Bunny or the Bhonsi green bells. And if I reach like early and nobody's around, and sometimes the birds are also quiet, some days. You could hear the dew falling down from the tree leaves.
Wow.
You can hear it, and I have recorded it also once.
That's so beautiful. I didn't know that. See, also for me also, I think the fascination with nature probably started with birds. So that's when, because
I can see that.
Yeah, so birds are fascinating. They're so beautiful. Like they're so colorful. They have an interesting story to tell. How they actually woo the mate, that is so interesting. Like every partner, like Baya for that matter, it's crazy that how they actually build the whole nest every year, and the males spend so much time, and that's the way they actually pursue the female. I think Indian males definitely need to learn something from that. So, but yeah, as in, seriously, make some effort, guys. Every bird has an interesting story to tell.
Exactly.
So that's what I think birds are very captivating. And I think if you see, the birding community is growing very strongly, probably across India or maybe across the world.
No, it is, yes.
There only, again, I think the same thing, that you actually start seeing that which bird feeds on which tree, which insect is it feeding on.
Exactly.
And then, then you see, because Aravali we have all around us, but then Mangar Bani, the way biodiversity is, that the number of birds you see in that area, You don't see in the entire Aravalli belt. And why? Then I noticed this thing that Mangarbani is where you actually have the native Aravalli vegetation.
Yes.
That's where we have protected them. Rest all is Vilaiti Kikad. I'm forgetting the scientific name, I'm very bad at that. But then yes, as in Vilaiti Kikad does not support any wildlife.
Yes.
It doesn't support any insects. No birds eat on it. So the whole Aravalli, the birds, if you count, Mangarbani is where it's concentrated.
Yes.
And that is when I think I got interested in trees and how important it is to protect our native trees. And I mean, we're so fortunate in our country that we have so many tree species, and I think only 10% of them are being cultivated across India. So if we don't cultivate the rest and we lose them, we just lose them forever. And it's very sad because most of the native trees, they take time to grow.
Yes.
The exotics, that's what they grow very fast and they kill the other native species.
They do.
And this is the problem
And
we're
also
facing.
the water level.
Water level, yes. So that's a water body close to Mangar, which is again built because of the whole illegal mining thing. But that is a living proof that the water level is dropping so rapidly.
Yes.
So they have been recording it also.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
within 10 years, you can see the water level going down drastically. So, but yeah, I mean, also this thing that I don't know why the conservation efforts around us are always focused on the negative. Because it's always like, you know, we're losing it, we're doing this. We are, but then I mean, for me, it's more important to focus on the positive. Like, look at the beauty around us. Yeah, like even in a city like Delhi, we are so blessed with such beautiful trees, like and birds.
Yes,
so if you focus on the trees, if you remove the plant blindness, I think that's when you'll start conserving them. Because we'll conserve what we love. If we don't love something, we will never protect that.
And
so,
Buller, what came up with, you know, seeing the unseen, I think it's such an important concept, and I mean the way it applies to both plants and birds is and it's right here, like in the urban area. We don't have to go far also to, you know, enjoy these things or notice these things. And I think after you started painting, you started noticing even more details about it.
I have been painting, I think, since childhood, but then I was in the corporate world.
Yeah.
So corporate doesn't give you too much time. You're actually always on the rat race, right? Like, so you're always busy running around the thing. I had enough of the corporate world. So I decided to quit in 2017. And I think that's when I started noticing how the trees are different in every seasons. So there's a book by Khushwant Singh, which is Delhi Through Its Seasons. If you've not read it, I'll strongly recommend that, because that book actually has that this tree dominates the color of Delhi in this season. And it is beautiful, and that's when I noticed that yes, it does. When the plant blindness goes, that's when you start noticing the colors. So that's when I'm like, okay, Delhi is yellow in summers because of amalthas. Then it's red. This time, I think because of the climate change, Gulmohar is flowering now. It's not supposed to flower now. It is supposed to flower in May.
It stayed for very long. Yeah.
No, it's flowering now. It's confused. So that's the whole issue. The climate change is very because it flowers right after amalthas or simultaneously with amalthas. So it's May or June. That's when these two flowers. The summers are yellow and red are the summer colors of Delhi, which is so beautiful because the summer, the heat, you know, the yellow is so resonates with the heat of
makes it all golden.
Yeah, and red, then Gulmohar. But then now, because of the whole climate change, it's flowering in September. This is the weirdest thing. Like, I've never seen Gulmohar flower in September.
I see.
So yeah, so this is again a proof that this year the climate has definitely changed. It's not supposed to be this rainy. The trees are not supposed to be flowering the way they are this year.
But you know, I see a little bit of change because I think we have a little more aware group, or you know, in this COVID time, we started noticing the nature around us. Nowadays, when I see on groups, I see discussions like, you know, oh, is it May? Why hasn't amalthas bloomed yet? I'm waiting for the yellow blooms, the yellow chandeliers. And you know, oh, when will the jacarandas come? I'm waiting for the purples. So in birds, I have done a whole series of like different birds on amalthas. So it's a yellow. And I've done a whole series of different birds on jacarandas, on semal. So it's like red, purple, yellow, and mostly in like either our condo or around, you know, this area, the small area. You don't even have to go to the green belt to do that.
You don't, fortunately. I
it's
think
an urban thing.
Yeah, we have a lot of trees around.
Exactly. So same story as yours. I mean, I got so passionate about this that I wanted to see more and more birds, and that too mainly in India. And for which you need to travel and you need time. So I kind of went part-time on my job, and you know, so that I can travel more and spend more time discovering this beautiful world of birds and bird photography. Similar.
That's great. Yeah, no, what I also started doing is that I start maintaining a nature journal wherein I actually record my
amazing.
yeah, so my stories from this year, because I would not remember that Gulmohar flowered in September next year. So, but then I write this down. So Baya also, like when it starts making a nest, like so every season is different. But then that's what, like this year it started on this date, it ended on this date.
Oh,
So
amazing.
next year I actually can go back and see that yes, as in this year it was different.
We should
so
compare notes because I have photos too, so I know the dates.
So photos is different. Yeah, when you make notes is different because that actually, like nature journal actually works as a scientific proof also. I would actually recommend that along with the photographs, maintain a journal.
Okay.
Like photographs is different. Maintain a journal which we probably like just write it that this happened this year. So that because your memory fails you, but your writing
So
will
I
not.
try and go back to the photographs to see, like mostly for the bird behavior. I mean, which also is sometimes linked to where they were nesting or which flower they were sitting on. Or I went back to see that when did I shoot Amaltas, birds on Amaltas in 2022 and when did I shoot on 23.
Right.
So I realized that it was delayed.
Right.
Or for instance, some birds is nesting. So this year the birds nested almost 1 month earlier than last year.
Oh wow.
And I had photos for both the dates.
Right.
So I knew exactly.
Because I think this year it's been raining since
Yeah,
March.
so birds knew that.
Yeah,
They knew it beforehand. They migrated earlier. They made a nest earlier. They nested earlier. So they knew that rains will be early. That's when they can get food to feed their offsprings.
Right.
And after that, there's been no rains till August. I think from August almost. So they kind of, I think, sense it.
Yeah. They do.
So I go back to my photographs to check those dates.
Okay, nice. So yeah, Preeti, so you had a thriving corporate career, right?
Absolutely,
And now
yes.
you have a part-time job?
I work
or-
part-time now as a consultant, yes. So
So you work from home or you go?
No, I go on projects, but
Okay.
it's part-time. I ensure that I only work 50% of the time.
Okay, nice.
And then I have flexibility to, manage my birding and travel along with it.
Okay.
When I was in
So your
a
number of
full-time-
hours are fixed or something?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So when I was in a full-time job, it was a traveling job. I would travel along with that also.
Where were you working?
So various, I was in the development sector. I was working with a US-based non-profit.
Okay.
So we would have projects across India and in nice rural locations.
Right.
So I would make sure that I would want to include my hobby along with that travel.
Okay.
So I would either take a weekend or go early.
Yeah, the typical corporate
Yes, the
lifestyle.
typical corporate thing. And for a few months, maybe a year or so, it went very well, and I was very happy that I'm able to manage everything. But after a point of time, it just became so hectic and stressful because with the job, you have your deadlines, you have your meetings, you have a team to manage, you have projects,
Right.
business development, so many pressures. And then your mind would always be like, I want to do a little more there, or I went there, I have clicked photos, I haven't yet even seen them. I want to download them, I
Yeah,
want
this
to
is-
process them.
This is always the case with me. Like I
Yeah.
stopped taking photographs because I don't process them.
Yeah, so I would be always, I felt like I'm not doing justice to either of that.
Yeah.
I'm not giving my 100% to my work because probably I'm torn away to do a little more on the birding side. And birding, I never had time. Before I would finish the, one location, I would be ready to go to the next. So
you have a target list for each year that these are the places you'll be visiting this year? or
yes,
something?
yes.
Oh, okay.
I started doing that last year. I started making a target list.
Okay.
I would also make sure that I'll complete it. Then I, decided that I need some more flexibility.
Nice.
And I wanted to go part-time. So I spoke to my current employer as well, and they were okay with it. But meanwhile, I found an interesting project, so I moved out, and it has been really like mentally so relaxing now because I know that I can focus on this part more.
Right.
So when I'm out there, I'm completely absorbed by nature. So I don't have to worry about what are the deadlines, what is pending,
Nice.
or that I am compromising something there. So I have made sure that I carve out time specifically
Right.
for this. And people understand or they don't understand, it's fine by me, but that's something I needed.
That's great.
That's something I need, and I really encourage everybody who are in this rat race or
Yeah.
who are just always running around targets, or I want to go to a national park, but I'll do it in the next season, or I want to do this trek, but yeah, I don't have time, it's a quarter end, it's a year end. I tell them, like, please prioritize your, likings, your passions.
And I think humans ultimately came from the forest, right? We are so disconnected with nature now that I think we're losing our own self. Like the whole stress thing and your mental health issues are, I think, one of the reasons is because we are breaking this connect with nature. So I think it's very important that we re-establish that connect. It's very therapeutic. I think you would have felt that, right? Like when you go back, you feel that it's like coming home. It's like, yeah, this is where you belong. That's home. That's
exactly. So in Japanese, there's now a concept of forest bathing.
Forest bathing, yes.
And a lot of
I was
corporates
coming
do
to that.
for their employees.
No, it's
to
very
de-stress.
therapeutic because tree hugging, like all those things which are like just touch a tree, like it feels so good. Like earth, I love gardening because I just love the feel of mud in my hands because it's so natural, and the smell of mud, the wet mud. जो दिल्ली में बंद हो चुका है, so you don't get that smell anymore.
Really? Because there's no mud left almost. I
don't know. It's probably there's no mud left, or we've used so much insecticides or pesticides that we've killed the smell. Actually, I think every language has a word for the wet earth smell. So when the rain falls, the smell that comes. English, that smell is called pettichlore. In Hindi, it's called sondhi khushbu.
Sondhi khushbu, yes.
I think the other languages also have a word like that. So imagine this smell was so important for every civilization that we have a separate word for it.
Awesome.
But we've lost that smell, which is so sad. And that was the best part of rains for me. Like I actually used to look forward to rains only to wake up to that smell. But that aroma is lost, which is so sad.
Yeah, when we were in corporate, I mean, they would take us for 1 or 2 days for these, off-sites, and you would have forest bathing and hugging the trees. And then you'll come back to the same rut of life. So that's probably not very helpful. This has to be a way of life. It has to be imbibed in your daily life.
Yeah.
You're going out for your morning walks, even if it's like that half an hour or 1 hour, just absorb yourself around.
True.
Stop thinking. Otherwise, I would always have like a checklist going on in my head. But now when I'm just outside and noticing or hearing the birds, noticing, okay, which flower has come? Oh, but this tree hasn't flowered yet. That tree has got flowers, it's the same amaltas. So there are these, and then you notice a slight movement, and then I would try to look for the bird. So you just forget everything else and you're charged up for the day, then the rest of the day you go ahead.
Yeah, and I think you're never bored if you're observing these things, right?
Exactly.
Because I know, like, if I'm sitting alone, only in a room like this which has no windows, I'll probably be bored. But if I have some window to the world, I know my attention will be like, yeah, okay, which bird is there, which insect is there, which tree is flowering, which disease has probably affected this tree. Of course, like Delhi doesn't have orchids, but then places where there are orchids, lichen, mosses, there's so many, there's an entire world out there. It's like so fascinating to just follow that trail. Like, so I'm lost in that trail only. I also have this obsession about recognizing or identifying each tree. So the ones I can, I'm happy about. The ones I can't, then I try documenting it. So I have sketchbook filled with trees that I do not identify, that I try and bug people that I know who can identify for me. So I was in the corporate world for a very long time, but nature and art both were my passions. I tried to do that as much as I can over the weekends, like similar to you probably. I was a part of all these art groups, so I'll go sketching over the weekend or a birding walk or something of the sort. But yeah, as it's just a weekend activity, and I think also as you grow up the corporate ladder, so like as in when you're just starting up, it's nice, people let you be that, you still can be, but I think when you grow up the corporate ladder, and unfortunately you have to grow, that's the way of life, they just try to pull you in the entire politics of the situation. That's why
the responsibilities increase.
Yeah, I can complete my work. It was not my work which was stressful, but I think the whole political situation around it, that what all is expected of you, how you manage people, and I'm not a very people person, so yeah, so all that was too stressful that like even on the weekends I was not really able to do much. And then I did not want to live like that, like 5 days of a week I'm actually doing something which I'm not happy about, and I'm just making money, and the 2 days of the week is when I actually get to spare to do something wherein my mind is still on on those.
Yeah, you're not completely off and relaxed, that you can focus on, your art actually. You always leave you wanting for more.
Exactly.
Right?
So that's what your mind is somewhere else.
Yes.
You are here, but
you're like divided in tone between these.
Right.
But I would still say, like, not everybody would probably be in a situation to, have this luxury which you and I had.
Of course.
So it'll be just nice to imbibe it in your daily lives and be a little more conscious, in trying to see the unseen things.
Right.
Which are just right around us. Like, so maybe you go for a walk, or maybe you're just, taking your child out to play in the garden and making them also aware, or you go on your holidays to the hills, to the, probably for a safari, or to some kind of a bird sanctuary. So being a little more mindful about the greens, about the forests, about the wildlife.
And probably, I mean, maybe recording them in some form. So it can be anything. It can be a journal, it can be a photograph. I mean, everyone has a mobile phone these days, so it's very easy to take a photograph. It can be a sketchbook, like
those who are good at, interested in sketching.
I mean, I think anyone can sketch. So the different, no, seriously, like you can actually start sketching. It's not difficult. So the levels vary, but that's what that's what nature journaling is all about. That you can just draw probably a form, which at least you can see that it's a bird. No one else has to know that it's a bird, or no one has to agree that it's a bird. But at least you know that this is a bird, and you can just actually mark, because a nature journal is a very personal thing. Like a journal is a very personal thing. So it is, no one else is supposed to read it. But I mean, of course, as in it's up to you whether you want to share it or not. So those are actually pages from my journal only, which I've displayed there.
Beautiful.
So so that's actually how you see it and how you remember it, for your own memory. So you can write, you can sketch, you can do whatever as per your skill levels. And of course, the more you practice, the better you become. So
also initiatives like this, I think, really help in like the Gular.
They
help in spreading the awareness. And as I said, after I started sharing my experiences, my pictures, and if I see kingfishers in my condo, which is not a very usual sight, I would click them and I would share it in my society groups, and people would be so happy about it, and then gradually everybody else will start noticing something. I would get messages like, we saw this bird today, or we also heard a kingfisher.
That's so cool.
I think these small things are helping in spreading initiatives somewhere. Like the last few days, so many people have stopped me and said that, we really like your pictures, and my child went to your bird walk. So after that, they started noticing birds. It really feels very happy.
The same here. Like I take these workshops for kids, adults also. But when we go and sketch a tree, so when you look at a tree from far, and when you're sketching a tree, that's what you're supposed to do. That first you sketch it from a distance, so like the whole shape which comes into play, which is it can be a short tree, tall tree, fat tree, whatever, so you actually take the whole tree in one particular frame. And then you go close to a tree. So that's what, like, actually, if I have to describe a person to you, if I have to describe someone about you that who's not seen you, it'll be like, okay, she's a tall, fair girl, and like with short hair, and so on and so forth. So that's how you describe a tree. Like if I have to describe a tree to someone, you actually first describe how tall that tree is, how fat the tree is, how widespread, and then you go closer and you start noticing the details. And when you notice the details, I think everyone is shocked, because mostly you would have not seen those things from afar, because you just pass by trees, we don't go closer, and then they're like, okay, ye kya hai? Matlab, that question thing comes, the curiosity which builds in. I'm sure if you go to close to a tree, you will see something which you've not seen before. I've never had a single workshop wherein I've not had people go to close to a tree and not discovered something which they have not seen before.
Amazing.
So it can be anything. It can be spots on a tree. It can be a disease also. Plants have diseases like everything else. You have insects. So you have obviously trees, insects which get inside the leaves. So there are trees, I think you would have seen, which have probably all leaves have been affected by insects. So the patterns which insects eat also. So caterpillar eat in a different manner. There are leaf cutter bees which actually are very artistic. So they actually cut it in that particular manner. So the traces tells you about which insect has been here. The texture of a tree. That is so beautiful.
So much to read into it when you get into it.
So that's what. So then you start sketching that, like the leaf pattern, the flowers, the fruits, what all is dwelling on the tree, which insects, bird, is there some nest on it, squirrels,
Yeah.
so on and so forth. So there's like a tree, especially for banyan, if you look at it, it's a whole ecosystem, right? Like you can actually have so many nests on it, so many like, so we had a very old peepal tree near my house, which was I think probably 200 years old or something like that. So I'm not really sure, but there was a whole phenomena that I think all the birds of that area, I think they used to come and roost on it during the day, at least sometime during the day.
I'm sure.
To pay homage to the tree or something like that. It's
Really?
very fascinating. But unfortunately, the tree passed away because of the storm. It just collapsed.
Okay.
But yeah, till the time it was there, it was amazing that you don't actually, you did not need to go anywhere for birding. You can just sit underneath the tree and just notice the rosy starling, owls. So it had so many holes. Every hole would have
Had
had
a
a nest. And also that's what, like, every bird will come and roost there also. So that's it, like you just need to go sit under the tree and just observe the birds.
So Richa, great talking to you, and I think we exchanged a lot of thoughts on how to observe keenly, the plant blindness, how to overcome plant blindness and observe these little tiny minute details in the nature all around us.
Right. Yeah, it was lovely talking to you too, Preeti, and hopefully I think we would help some people see the unseen and probably overcome plant blindness.
Thank you.